64. Accept you may be lonely. Leadership and loneliness often go hand in hand. It can be lonely as a leader, and you must take care because this loneliness might be having a negative impact on your leadership performance. This was shown in a 2012 study conducted by the Harvard Business Review, which found that 50% of CEOs said they experienced loneliness at work, and, of these, 61% felt it affected their performance. This loneliness stems from having no one to open up to and share your troubles and concerns with. This is either because you may feel no one will understand what you're facing and going through, or you feel it inappropriate to be open with certain people. Your staff may not understand and appreciate your leadership challenges. You may have to keep many issues and decisions from your staff, and this limits your ability to freely open up with them generally, with your senior colleagues and with your own boss. If you have one, you may be reluctant to confide for fear of displaying vulnerability and weakness, which you fear they may use against you later. This sense of being alone can be harder if you've been a member of the team you now manage. Before being promoted, you may have been very open and close with your colleagues, but now you're the boss. They may treat you differently, for example, no longer inviting you to socialize. You may also find that your busy schedule interferes with your social life and you have less free time to meet with family, friends and acquaintances. This can be very frustrating and can further exasperate any feelings of being alone as a leader. Put it into action. Acknowledge your loneliness. Get used to the idea of being alone and not having a ready pool of colleagues to bounce ideas off. Seek opinions from and to sense check your thinking. Have the self-confidence to listen to yourself and to make some decisions on your own. Make an alternative buddy or two. It may be possible to make some decisions alone, but successful leaders proactively seek the counsel, support and advice of others when needed. They create an inner circle to support them. This may include reaching out to one or two trusted colleagues you have known for some time with whom you can confide and open up about your anxieties, concerns and fears. They may be individuals who are mentoring you as part of a program. Befriending leaders working for other organizations, with whom you can open up, reflect, learn and brainstorm, without revealing confidential company information, of course. You could meet leaders at all kinds of networking events organized in your area by bodies such as Lions, Rotary, Chambers of Commerce, industry body associations and other private clubs, such as a local golf club. Loneliness is not confined to leaders in our technology-driven world. Many of us are feeling increasingly more isolated as we rely more on emails, messages and online video conferencing and less on physical face-to-face interactions. As well as monitoring your own feelings of loneliness, always keep an eye open for members of your own team who may be feeling lonely and disconnected. Perhaps offering to spend time with them over a coffee or lunch. 65. Make the right calls. Your leadership journey will be made or broken by your key decisions and choices. Decision-making is such an important skill because, as a leader, your decisions could make or break your company's future as well as your own career. Sadly, there's no magic recipe to ensure that every single decision you ever make will be perfectly baked. As you follow and read about leaders at some of the world's most successful companies such as Apple, Facebook, Alibaba, Samsung, Airbnb and Zara, you'll quickly learn that they have made some amazingly wise decisions along with some very poor ones. Sometimes the effect of a poor decision may only be visible to a few people internally, but sometimes poor leadership decisions can have such a large impact that their organization can make the world news. During the 2007-08 financial crash, some of the world's largest banks faced bankruptcy while the investment bank Lehman Brothers closed down. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill in 2010 cost British Petroleum its reputation and billions in compensation payments. In 2019, Boeing had to set aside a few $1 billion for compensation payments in the wake of the grounding of all 737 MAX aircraft. Previously renowned global brands such as Blockbuster, Kodak, Toys R Us and Borders are all no longer trading. Even if you only work in a small organization where the potential financial impact of a poor decision is only a few $1,000s, you still need to avoid making mistakes like this if you want to be viewed as a successful leader and keep your job. The secret is to become expert at making decisions and minimize the risk of ever making one that might destroy your company or career. Put it into action. Involve the right people. Never struggle alone with a challenging decision. Always involve other people. Seek the help of whoever is most skilled within your team, colleagues, other stakeholders and experts. Ask them to evaluate and challenge you on your own understanding, thinking and assumptions. It's always better to have some really difficult discussions and arguments before eventually making the right decision than to quickly make a decision which proves to be wrong. Use the right decision-making tools. Work with your team to always gather and analyze all aspects of a decision, including the relevant facts, assumptions, risks and impacts. Learn about and appropriately use decision-making frameworks, models and processes. Your colleagues might be able to teach you how to use some of the better-known and relatively easy-to-understand ones such as SWOT and PEST analyses, opportunity cost calculations, cost-benefit and weighted scoring analyses, decision trees and matrices, cause and effect fishbone diagrams, payback and net present value, NPV, calculations. What's the worst that could happen? Never make a decision until you understand the potential negative impacts of that decision. Ask yourself whether your organization can cope in the event of a worst-case outcome. Sometimes you'll discover that the potential risks of a decision are greater than the benefits. In such cases, have the humility and courage to consider altering or canceling a planned decision. Better a little loss of face today than finding yourself fired later for making a decision that proved too costly. 66 Play peacemaker. Your leadership is only really tested when storm clouds gather in the seas. Become rough. Whenever people work together, you'll rarely have harmony and alignment with everyone in harmonious agreement about everything. Instead, there will always be moments of tension, arguments and conflicts within any team or organization. For example, misunderstandings about what has been said or done by someone, tensions between colleagues as they fight over the same time slots. Attention or resources, department heads accusing one another of lying about who agreed to take responsibility for solving an issue, disagreements over how to tackle a problem or achieve a goal, team members' egos clashing over who has the superior idea and should lead a discussion, jealousy over who received recognition for a completed project, colleagues who are not on speaking terms after someone took offense at comments made about them, the boss breaking a promise to promote one of the team and promoting someone else instead, causing the slighted team member to become angry. How you respond in such scenarios is a measure of your leadership maturity and wisdom. Too many leaders make problems worse by being part of the conflict themselves or jumping in and taking sides, or by being unaware of the issue at all or choosing to avoid it. By inflaming any conflict, a leader can turn even small matters into conflicts which then have devastating impacts on a team's productivity, collaboration and motivation. Successful leaders do the opposite. They never choose to create conflicts or to worsen conflicts that have already arisen if they can possibly avoid it. Put it into action. Sniff out potential conflict. Always be on the lookout for situations where upset, arguments, misunderstandings or disagreements might emerge. When you sense a problem might be brewing, bring the affected individuals together and have frank discussions. Ask the sparring parties to remember their collective purpose, vision, goals and successes rather than only focusing on any potential areas of difference. Continually talk together, working through any differences as soon as they arise, with you remaining as a mediator if needed. Tackle fires already burning when conflict has already started. Be quick to eliminate any unhealthy emotions and feelings and help resolve the issue through encouraging all parties to pause and share their feelings, upset and concerns with you in confidence. Then bring all parties together in the same room, or through video conference, allowing all sides to hear one another's views and perceptions. Steer this conversation as needed to make sure that all needed opinions are aired, and that no one stays quiet when you know they have something to say. Find common ground and seek a compromise acceptable to all sides. During these discussions, vary your leadership style as needed, from very firm and directive through to stepping back and allowing the parties involved to find their own consensus and way forward, if that looks like it may produce results. Allow healthy conflicts. Sometimes colleagues need to air differences and have moments of disagreement. All successful organizations recognize this and have a culture of healthy and productive disagreement. Just be sure to follow the advice on this page to stop these discussions turning into negative, tense and emotionally charged conflicts. 67 Spell out responsibility. An excellent leader never acts like a Teflon-coated non-stick frying pan. You can always spot a weak leader by how skillfully and quickly they're able to pin the blame on other people when challenged about mistakes, misunderstandings, missed targets and other poor performance-related issues. Such people can become expert at washing their hands of responsibility and accountability even when it's obvious to others that they're the person in charge of the relevant tasks and goals. You'll never succeed by acting in this way and will eventually be called out for shirking your responsibilities as a leader. You may even be fired as a result. Successful leadership is about making things happen, implementing changes and achieving goals. To do these things, you must be systematic in allocating and assigning responsibility, including to yourself, to make sure that everybody understands exactly who is responsible for an actual task or piece of work. This could be one individual or a group and might include the leader. Accountable for the completion of that work. As a leader, you're probably the one who is ultimately answerable and responsible in this way. As you become more senior, leaders beneath you will be accountable for their own team's work, but you may remain ultimately accountable. Asked to support and/or be consulted to help in the task's completion. They're normally only responsible for the quality of their help and advice. Needing to be kept informed of the work and would normally have no responsibility. Known as the RASCI model, this framework makes it easier for any leader and their team members to understand, accept and focus on the tasks and goals they're responsible and accountable for. Put it into action. Advertise who is responsible. Create your own version of the RASCI model, turning it into a table that lists the names of those who are solely or jointly responsible as well as accountable for different tasks and pieces of work. Have discussions and brainstorming sessions if needed to reach agreement on who is responsible and accountable for which tasks and goals. Support, motivate and encourage team members to take personal responsibility and/or accountability. If needed, be directive and forceful in allocating who does what. Be very clear about any shared responsibilities and ensure that those who are jointly responsible, including yourself, are aligned and able to work collaboratively. Be the role model. Be a good role model by being enthusiastic and motivated to take full accountability for all of your team's work as well as for any tasks that you personally undertake. Demonstrate that your team's failures are also your own. Never make the mistake of passing tasks to your team and later blaming them for poor performance or mistakes and thinking that you're absolved of any blame. You always remain accountable for your team's work. This is a fundamental role of leadership. Challenge and support them to complete the work themselves, but never wash your hands when they struggle or fail. 68. Be entrepreneurial. Would you do the same thing if it were your own business? When you're a leader working for a business that is not your own, you can make decisions without needing to face the full consequences of the decision's outcomes. The worst that could happen is you make bad decisions and get fired. However, when you're the entrepreneur who owns the business, a few poorly thought through decisions could leave you penniless if your firm goes bankrupt and your shareholding becomes worthless. Entrepreneurs know that every decision they make has very high risks compared to a leader employed by a large corporation who is simply spending or investing the company's money. For this reason, successful entrepreneurs have some valuable skills and attributes that you should learn from. They're deeply thoughtful about choices and decisions facing them. Given that their own money is always on the line, they have honed their intuition and gut feelings to complement their analytical and intellectual skills to give them an extra edge. They have a strong passion for the businesses they create, making them very inspiring, energetic and charismatic leaders. They're extremely creative, love thinking out of the box and always taking the initiative in search of great ideas and solutions. They're very good at motivating and encouraging others to join them on their startup journeys. You may never wish to put your capital on the line by becoming an entrepreneur, but emulating some of their success traits can raise your game. Put it into action. Think and act like an entrepreneur whenever you're facing a problem, dilemma or decision and not sure which option to choose. Ask yourself, which would I choose if this were my own company and it were my own money on the line? Having this owner's mindset gives you a heightened awareness and may cause you to think twice about a decision when most other leaders might think it through too quickly or even avoid dealing with it altogether. With an entrepreneurial mindset, you might wonder if an underperforming employee should be terminated now rather than keeping them on and paying their salary in the hope that they will improve. Double-check if the forecasted returns in a capital expenditure plan are really achievable or if your staff are being overly optimistic in their calculations. Evaluate whether a long-term supplier is becoming complacent and not bringing the value add they had promised and ask your team to seek more cost-effective alternatives. In addition to being more thoughtful, two other entrepreneurial qualities to adopt are being passionate and enthusiastic about your goals, plans and workload, and viewing your job responsibilities as something you're choosing to do as if you were your own boss. Becoming excited about wanting to improve and optimize all aspects of your work and business by bringing your intuition, creativity and innovation to everything you do. Encourage others to think like entrepreneurs. When you start acting more entrepreneurial, your team may like your newfound passion and excitement. Equally, they may be surprised that you're acting more cautiously and probing every decision, forecast and plan they present to you. Explain why you're acting in this way and encourage them to also adopt an owner mentality when making their own decisions. 69. Think globally. No leader succeeds as an island, cut off from the rest of the world. The world is so interconnected, with virtually every aspect of life and business becoming more global each year. It's now impossible to be a leader living and working in one city, county or region and ignore the rest of the world. The New York Times writer Thomas Friedman introduced this idea in his aptly titled book, The World is Flat, and today every part of a business seems to have links to other parts of the world. European high-street clothing brands selling clothes designed in Italy, made in Bangladesh with fabric from China, zippers from Japan and buttons from India. U.S. companies having their call centers and back-office support services located in places as far afield as India, Mexico or the Philippines, serving staff and fielding calls from clients located in every corner of the world, sitting in your living room in Manchester or Chicago and purchasing almost anything from anywhere thanks to a multitude of global websites, supermarket shelves in any city stocked with products from every imaginable country. When you take a look at any individual products, you discover just how global they are. To take one example, Airbus aircraft are assembled in France but with parts produced in many countries, including the wings constructed in Wales in the UK. Successful leaders understand just how global even the most local marketplace or business is becoming and actively seek to learn about and take advantage of this globalization, put it into action. Lead locally, think globally. Not everyone wants to become a global leader running a business spanning the world. You can be equally successful by leading a business which focuses on serving just one area or community with some great relationships with your local clients, suppliers and staff. But your local business, based in Edinburgh, Detroit or Toronto, risks missing out on so many great ideas and opportunities if you close your eyes to what is happening elsewhere. If you're not doing so already, take a more global perspective, starting with these small steps. Attend trade shows and expos that cover your industry sector, and that take place both within your country as well as overseas. To learn about what your local and global competitors are doing and about how products and services are evolving, consider sourcing materials, products and services from new locations. Find a distributor or reseller in an overseas market to test how appealing and valuable having foreign customers may be. Market and sell your products and services online to a global marketplace. Be open to hiring staff with experience of working and living in other parts of the world. Read widely both about your industry as well as more broadly about global business trends and ideas. Decide to network globally. Become involved in international business networking and referral networks such as BNI, www.bni.com, or the Entrepreneurs Organization, www.eonetwork.org. You'll learn so much from spending time with leaders from all corners of the globe who will bring with them different insights, as well as giving you a network of new business friends who could support and aid any of your own international sourcing or expansion plans. 70. Cope with the unexpected. Sometimes leaders must twist and turn like snakes to cope with the unexpected. The best laid plans so often go up in smoke, don't they? As a leader, you need to skillfully cope with the consequences of any unexpected changes. A key member of your team who was your planned successor suddenly resigns, leaving you with a massive workload and the headache of finding his replacement. Your boss becomes seriously ill and you must cover for her while also temporarily reporting to a senior colleague who you don't know at all. Your team informs you that your largest client is taking their business to a cheaper supplier, leaving a large hole in your sales budget. Your laptop crashes while starting a presentation at a global management meeting and you must continue without your slideshow and videos. At the 11th hour, you're asked to rework your department's budget numbers by incorporating a 10% cost reduction. Faced with all kinds of unexpected changes, too many leaders panic and become stressed, start complaining and moaning. Worst of all, they may even ignore what has happened and act as if nothing has changed. Successful leaders, on the other hand, have mastered how to be successful even when their best-laid plans go up in smoke. You need to learn how to emulate them when your own plans get messed up. They tend to exhibit a mix of being flexible, agile, resilient and mentally strong, and are quick to understand and process the changes in real time and then calmly adjust their plans accordingly to ensure the best possible outcome. Put it into action. Become adaptive and agile. Unexpected events must never stop you in your tracks and cause you to stop or give up. When faced with a roadblock, delay or unexpected event, follow these 4 suggestions. 1. Observe yourself and keep any emotional reactions, feelings of disappointment and upset in check. 2. Positively focus on the problem at hand, deciding quickly whether you must make any immediate changes or whether you have more time to react. Either way, respond optimally to the unexpected event, news or setback. 3. Explore the available information and decide whether you need to reprioritize what must be done and write a plan of action with clear timeframes. 4. Implement and communicate any necessary changes with a positive frame of mind. Refocusing your time and attention is needed to ensure things quickly get back on track. Bring your team with you. Don't allow your team to become entrenched in what they're doing and unwilling to adjust and change as needed. Involve them in both understanding what has happened as well as in crafting a response. People are not stupid. Never feel that you must hide any bad news from them or leave them in the dark about how they will need to adapt. Give them extra care and attention. This will help them cope with whatever unexpected changes occur. 71. Peer into the future. Yesterday and today are poor predictors of what will land on you tomorrow. Successful leaders are futurists who always make time to look beyond what is happening today to peer into the future. They're like chess grandmasters who have honed their skills and foresight to be able to visualize many possible moves ahead in their chess games. Looking into the future is no longer an optional activity for any leader, but has become an essential leadership task because of the world constantly being in flux. How the world you're leading in will appear in only a few years' time could be very different from today thanks to the numerous technology-driven changes impacting our already volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous VUCA world. Your very survival as a leader will depend on your foresight and strategic acumen, and your ability to adjust your vision and goals as needed. There are 3 key and interlocking areas you must keep an eye on. 1. Ensure that your company and its products and services will still be relevant and valued in the years ahead by evolving existing and creating new offerings to meet your changing market needs. 2. Understand and be ready to take advantage of trends in technology, talent, regulations and ways of working to make sure that your business systems, procedures and use of resources remain optimal and best practice. 3. Help both yourself and your team members to discover and understand what skills, mindsets, education and work experiences need to be refreshed to keep you valuable and sought after as leaders and employees. Put it into action. Find out where to learn. Read online articles and studies at sites such as Web Links and Web Links, which explore future trends and possible scenarios affecting different industries and aspects of working life. Regularly attend conferences and expos that are relevant to the business sector you work within and/or your area of work expertise and interests. Explore online or in-person training courses that focus on topics such as the future of work or the future impact of technologies on the workplace. You could also seek out those targeted at your industry, business sector or job function, such as a course on the future of financial services or those related to manufacturing. Many courses are available online as free MOOCs at sites such as www.futurelearn.com, www.edx.org or www.udemy.com. You could also explore becoming officially trained and certified in how to explore the future with organizations such as the Futurist Institute, www.futuristinstitute.org, and Global Foresight, www.globalforesight.org. A word of caution: never blindly believe everything you hear or read because no one can predict the future with anything close to 100% accuracy. Simply take on board the ideas and insights you hear to help you form your own evolving knowledge, insights, views, feelings and opinions. Organize reflective brainstorming sessions, Get involved in updating and reviewing your organization's vision, future direction and strategic plans. Help your team to regularly brainstorm what skills, knowledge and experiences they need in order to stay relevant and employable. Encourage your HR colleagues to source or organize training courses on skills that will be key for your team in the future. Stay on top of any changing leadership expectations and issues. 72. Choose your role models carefully. Observe those who inspire and impress you, then emulate their positive qualities, but those only. No one is perfect. Many leaders have been blindly learning from the wrong role models simply because they emulate and copy other leaders without realizing they're doing it. This pattern of unconscious mimicking starts in our childhoods when we instinctively copy our parents. We take this same habit into adulthood. You can see this happening when people are meeting together and one person crosses their arms or legs and other people do the same thing without even realizing it. It's also likely that your first few close colleagues and bosses became your unconscious role models because you had no one else to observe and learn from. Successful leaders stop relying upon this unconscious and automatic mimicking of those they work for or look up to, and deliberately choose their role models. In addition, once they have chosen a role model, they never copy all aspects of that leader's style because no leader is perfect. Instead, they only emulate the positive behaviors and habits while avoiding their role model's weaknesses. A highly visionary leader might also have an anger management problem and a low tolerance for certain people or behaviors. A leader who has amazing decision-making skills when it comes to choosing successful business opportunities but may lack the skills to develop and grow a high-performing team. A leader who always exceeds expectations by pushing staff to achieve their KPIs may have no idea about how to listen, inspire and coach people. Put it into action. Choose role models wisely. Decide which leaders have qualities you would like to emulate and learn from, and which leaders you would never want to emulate or copy in a million years. The latter are known as negative role models. You can learn important lessons from them in terms of how not to be a leader. If you're not sure who your desired role models are, take your time to find out by reading about and listening to all kinds of leaders through books, articles, podcasts, at events and/or in person within your own organization. Do you prefer to learn, for example, from successful leaders with similar backgrounds or experiences to your own, such as being a man or woman, or from a particular ethnic, work or educational background? Do you change your role models over time in alignment with your own growth as a leader? The ideal role models for you when you lead a small sales or software team will be quite different to those you need when you're appointed managing director of an entire company. Maximize what you learn from role models. Read their biographies and other material they have written. If a role model is a colleague or family friend, you have hit the jackpot because you can easily meet them in person and even ask them whether they would be willing to coach or mentor you. If your role models are far away or you don't know them personally, consider connecting with them via LinkedIn.com to ask them specific questions. Keep a journal of your notes and reflections about what you learn from your role models and about your own attempts to emulate some of their better habits and behaviors while avoiding the bad ones. 73. Get off your high horse. Nelson Mandela left us with one key learning: always forgive people even when it seems impossible to do. Most people are unforgiving and refuse to forgive a colleague who has done something to upset them. Too many leaders act the same and are unwilling to let it go, reconcile and move on. They prefer instead to hold onto their negative feelings and tell people how they have been wronged. The problem with not forgiving someone is that you suffer, not other person. You're the one holding onto the negative feelings towards them, and the resentment you hold onto might turn you into an overcritical, bitter and negative leader. Not surprisingly, being the opposite, a forgiving leader, can help you both to lead as well as to create a better working environment. In a 2017 study reported in the Journal of Management and Organization, the authors concluded that being a forgiving leader helps you and your team interact and collaborate more optimally. This makes sense, and I have observed this in my coaching work, finding that leaders who are more forgiving enable people to take more risks, make mistakes and to speak up, help those they work with to become more understanding and forgiving, create a more motivating, compassionate and positive work environment. Successful leaders understand all of these benefits and always make an effort to forgive other people as well as themselves. They don't forget what has happened but choose to no longer carry the negative feelings inside themselves and instead make a conscious decision to move on. Put it into action. Understand how unforgiving you're being. Recognize when you're being unwilling to forgive other people. Discover your patterns, reflect upon them, and observe when you're holding a grudge or retaliating against someone, feeling mistreated, ignored or hurt by someone, writing someone off for making a mistake, angry about someone doing something, teaching someone a lesson by refusing to make up after an argument, refusing to accept another person's apologies and contrition, ignoring someone's attempts to make good on something they had said or done. And work to become genuinely forgiving. Decide whether you really want to become a more forgiving person. If you have a large ego, it may take extra effort to forgive, let go and move on. When you feel torn between holding firm and being forgiving, do speak to a close colleague who could help you see sense and help you to forgive. Decide whether you want to write a note or email to explain your perceptions and feelings and/or to meet the other person face to face in your office, a meeting room, or over lunch. Your forgiveness won't change the past nor make it disappear, but it will allow you and your colleagues to optimally move forward together without holding onto any excess and negative baggage. People are rarely 100% in the right, and your challenge may not just be about forgiving someone else but also about you saying sorry and apologizing for your part in an argument, misunderstanding, or for how you reacted. And remember to forgive yourself. Remember that you may also need to forgive yourself and to stop beating yourself up for things you may have done wrong in the past. 74. Stand tall during storms. Never lose your composure and focus even when living through a force 10 hurricane. If you haven't already, you'll face all kinds of crises during your time as a leader that can impact profit targets, project plans, careers, reputations, or even people's livelihoods and lives. How you react and lead during these critical moments can make or break your leadership career. You need to be ready to tackle any crisis really well, no matter how it occurred. Caused by events that are out of your control, caused by events that are within your control. Freak weather causing your electronics factory to be flooded and stopping production indefinitely. Economic sanctions imposed on your main export market resulting in your sales revenue falling 25%. A deadly fire at your chemicals plant caused by old wiring and paper rubbish which you knew about. A poorly tested new product explodes when used by customers, resulting in a global product recall. Your leadership nightmare is facing a crisis that you could have contained but allowed to grow or even spiral out of control because you overreacted, made poor decisions, or failed to understand and listen well. A worse mistake is to try to hide or downplay a crisis because you know your organization is at fault. We see many examples of this withholding of the truth. An oil company is slow to reveal that a major offshore oil leak is happening because they know it's their fault, and their delay in coming clean creates an even larger environmental disaster with a bigger financial cost to them. An airline manufacturer is reluctant to admit that one of its aircraft models is flying with a potentially catastrophic technical problem which they knew about, and their delay worsens the bad publicity and financial impact. Successful leaders avoid these leadership mistakes and, instead, practice high-quality crisis management to minimize the negative impacts of any possible problem. Put it into action. Master key crisis management skills. It's essential that your responses to and actions during a crisis won't worsen an already difficult situation for you and your colleagues. Be calm, honest and open. Remain steady and balanced even when those around you might be panicking, crying, acting fearful or anxious. When you need to calm yourself, sit down, close your eyes and take slow deep breaths. Pause before saying or doing anything to be sure that your message or action will be helpful and is not simply a knee-jerk reaction to the problem or you being defensive and hiding something. Evaluate and act decisively. Create a crisis management team made up of colleagues with differing skill sets and experiences who together make a strong team to help solve the issue. Work together to evaluate what is happening and understand the reasons for the problem. Decide what urgent short-term actions need to happen now, such as writing an initial press release, informing the company's shareholders, or providing emergency assistance to those affected. Treat the crisis with the same seriousness you would give to an important work project. Detailed planning, agreeing which stakeholders to involve and identifying the necessary actions, resources, timeframes and communications. Keep appropriate stakeholders informed. There will be different people involved in each problem, each having their own perceptions of the crisis and expectations of how it can be solved. Regularly communicate with all parties, keeping them informed and never lie to them, hold back information or keep quiet. Share with your team and colleagues your plans and commitments. including your vision of how you'll lead the team or organization through the crisis and beyond. 75. Value diversity and inclusivity. We discriminate against certain people without even noticing. Diversity is a hot topic. In today's working world, we are all very well informed, trained and supported to never knowingly discriminate, show any bias or to treat anyone differently because of who they are. We are encouraged to create gender-balanced teams, give everyone equal opportunities and to hire and to promote those from disadvantaged and underrepresented backgrounds. You might be proud of how you're always conscious of diversity issues, but most of your decisions and choices are actually being made by your unconscious mind. The Nobel-winning scientist Eric Kandel believes that nearly all of our thinking is hidden away from us in this way. This wouldn't be a problem if our unconscious minds were always making great choices and decisions for us. But sadly, a lot of the time, our brains are making biased split-second assessments and judgments of people and situations, influenced by our backgrounds, personal experiences, cultures and what makes us more comfortable. Thanks to this biased thinking, we all exhibit what is called unconscious bias. We are drawn to people who look, act and sound like us. While also tending to view people who are taller and fitter as having more authority and deserving more respect, we favor job candidates from certain academic and work backgrounds that fit with our own, during meetings. Women are often ignored, spoken over and their comments not valued compared to those of men. When a woman acts like a man, she can be accused of being too aggressive, whereas when a man acts in the same way he might be viewed as exhibiting an excellent leadership style. We are influenced by a person's name and are drawn to those we are more familiar with. This is why some companies remove candidates' names from their CVs before sharing with interviewers. To perform more successfully as a leader, it's time you stopped making such unconscious choices, which can be unhelpful and are often totally unacceptable. Put it into action. Understand how you're biased. Start by understanding and acknowledging when you might be guilty of unconscious bias. Take the well-known implicit association test from Harvard University. It's free to take and is available online at web links. It shows which of your individual perceptions and actions are being determined by your unconscious biases. Observe yourself, noting when you might be automatically jumping to conclusions or assumptions about different people you're interacting with. Open up and consciously diversify your thinking. When in situations where your biases might be evident, pause and ask yourself honest questions such as, am I really preferring this job candidate because of her work experience or just because she also went to the same university as I did? When you meet someone for the first time, ask yourself what your first impressions are and reflect on which of your biases might have helped determine your answer. Decide whether this is a fair conclusion to make. Do you need to be more open-minded? Always try to broaden your focus, for example by ensuring that women attending your meetings are not spoken over or ignored. Encourage your colleagues to also understand what unconscious bias is and why it's so bad if we blindly allow it to make our decisions for us. Read about the different types of biases that you may be guilty of having. 76. Lead with your body language. Stand tall, smile and show that you're ready to lead. Your nonverbal communication is at least as important as your verbal. As a result, it doesn't matter how brilliant your choice of words is. If your body language is telling your audience a different story, don't be surprised if your message gets lost. You have written an inspiring speech to give in a town hall meeting, but it will fall on deaf ears if you slump your shoulders, wear ill-fitting clothes, stare at the floor, look sad or speak in a monotone. You're giving a well-designed interactive presentation to impress a potential new client, but this will mean nothing if your handshake is limp and weak, your shoelaces are untied, you mumble your words, keep your arms crossed and act nervous. Excellent all-round communication skills are not just a nice-to-have skill, they are essential. As a leader, you're an ambassador. How people see and hear you has a disproportionately large impact on the success of your organization as well as upon your own leadership career. Successful leaders are conscious of the impact of all four aspects of their communication. 1. Verbal. What you say in terms of your choice of words. 2. Paraverbal. How you say what you say, which includes your tone and volume of voice and intonation. 3. Nonverbal. Your facial expressions, eye contact and body posture. 4. Appearance, your clothing, makeup and body odor. Put it into action. Have your communication work for, not against you. Work on all 4 areas of your communication and invest the needed time and effort to strengthen, overcome whichever elements of how you communicate are helping you stand out and/or are holding you back. Verbal. When you're preparing for an important talk or speech, prepare your words in advance and share them with someone who is a skilled wordsmith and willing to edit and improve your draft. Be equally thorough before any meetings by thinking through how you'll craft your arguments and make the necessary points. Paraverbal. Make a constant effort to make sure that what you want to say is never weakened or overshadowed by verbal distractions such as using too many filler words, such as and ah, having long pauses, sighing, stuttering and inappropriate giggling. Nonverbal. Have someone film you while you're giving a talk and then be honest. Is your nonverbal communication working for or against you? Practice overcoming typical mistakes such as having odd or unusual facial expressions and hand gestures, not standing upright in a calm and relaxed manner, appearing to look sad or not looking at people you're speaking with. Appearance. Be well groomed, with neat hair and clean shoes. Wear clothes that you feel comfortable in as well as make you look very professional. Your choice of appearance is partly determined by your work environment. When you're unsure what to put on in the morning, remember the saying, when in Rome do as the Romans do. Dress like those you'll be interacting and working with. 77. Leave your door open. Great leaders never hide in their offices. To bring out the best in a team, a leader must be willing to listen to whatever the team members wish to communicate. Be careful though, this isn't as simple as leaving your office door physically open. I once coached a leader who claimed to be very approachable with her door literally wide open, but her staff told me they hated speaking with her. They explained that whenever they approached her with ideas, problems or suggestions, she acted like she had no time, would make them feel unwelcome, or would ridicule and find fault in their ideas rather than saying anything positive. Genuinely approachable leaders make their staff feel at ease, patiently listen, reflect and calmly respond without any judgment. This is a genuine open-door policy and helps create a very healthy and positive working environment. As a result of being heard, people will feel more valued and motivated and will be willing to invest more effort in their work. It creates a working culture of increased openness, trust and transparency in which people will be less inclined to remain silent and hold back from sharing with each other, including with you. There will be less fear and more eagerness to discuss problems and issues before they become fully fledged crises. Put it into action. Have an open door policy, but with some boundaries. Always aim to be ready and available to speak with your team members. But have them understand this does not mean you're always literally available every time a team member asks to speak with you. You might be busy finishing an urgent report, reflecting on a problem or deep in discussion with a client. When in this situation, be polite and explain that you're keen to talk as soon as possible and agree a time when you're both available to sit down. Be sure to block the time in your diary to avoid double booking yourself. Don't dismiss your team's concerns and worries. Be considerate and kind when your team brings up an issue which you might be tempted to dismiss as trivial, small or an overreaction. Hide this initial thought and listen to your staff to show that you value their contribution. You don't have to agree with them, but at least hear them out. If you don't, they're likely to stop speaking up and sharing with you in the future. Don't shoot the messenger when a team member approaches you with some bad news. Be careful to not overreact by showing your anger or that you're upset. Be grateful that they have told you something that others may have been keeping quiet about. Positively thank them for having the courage and good sense to bring up the issue, encouraging them to always speak up. Don't wait for them to come to you to demonstrate that you're truly accessible. Don't wait for your team to approach you. Instead, be proactive and go and find them by regularly walking around your office or shop floor, stopping to talk with your staff and asking them how things are. Invite them to come to talk with you whenever they like. 78. Become culturally intelligent. When you're working far from your home, you're the odd one out. In today's interconnected world, there are so many people working away from their own countries. It's highly likely you'll find yourself interacting and leading people from many different cultures, and the potential to be misunderstood, cause offense or create confusion is quite high. What you view as normal and may do without thinking might be misunderstood by others and cause them to feel uncomfortable or even offended. Being ignorant about cultural differences or making fun of them could easily damage your business, reputation and career. President Obama once made a cultural blunder by greeting the Burmese leader Aung San Suu Kyi with a kiss on her cheek. This is a very taboo thing to do in Myanmar. If you had done the same thing, you could have lost an important Burmese business deal over your cultural faux pas. Your company's business dealings could have come to an abrupt halt in Mexico had you copied Jeremy Clarkson, who once made remarks that were so offensive about Mexicans that the Mexican ambassador in London complained to the BBC about the outrageous, vulgar and inexcusable insults. Successful leaders have learned to become culturally sensitive and to appreciate the many cultural differences that exist in how people greet, come close and touch each other, express that they agree or understand something, dress, dance, travel, eat and drink, speak up, complain, celebrate and share or remain quiet, or impacted by their religion and religious festivals, interact, work and socialize together, treat women and men differently, question and challenge each other, treat time and deadlines differently, make agreements and promises. Put it into action. Learn about the cultures of your colleagues. When you have a new colleague, client or supplier from another part of the world, do a little research on the customs, unwritten rules and practices of men and women from that country or area. Seek advice about the do's and don'ts by searching the web, using a phone app such as Compare Cultures, and by reading books on culture by experts such as Geert Hofstede, Richard D. Lewis and Aaron Meyer. If in doubt, ask and always apologize. Ask those you're working or traveling with to share with you information about their own cultural norms, expectations and taboos. Invite them to share their own observations about your own culture, explaining what appears similar or different to their own. Encourage them to point out when you may be on the verge of doing something culturally inappropriate that may upset or embarrass people. Note, however, that in many cultures people are accustomed to being very polite and will never tell you that you have offended them. You may have to find out through your own research and by talking with as many people as possible. Always apologize, in a culturally appropriate manner, when you have caused offense. 79. The customer always comes first. Never forget the one who is ultimately paying the salaries of your entire team. Everything you do as a leader is linked to fulfilling your customers' needs. The impact might be direct if you're heading a sales team, or indirect if you and your team are supporting colleagues who are your internal clients. Only by fulfilling all their needs can you be sure of maintaining your company's success as well as your own. No matter whether you're the CEO or a new manager, you need to ensure that you and your team are always performing well so that your internal and external customers continually receive what they're expecting and paying for. You're the head of a finance team and must ensure that your team doesn't reimburse expenses incorrectly, pay salaries late or create invoices containing errors. Otherwise, you'll upset your internal and external customers. As an IT manager, you must make sure that all of your colleagues' technology requirements are being met and that key IT systems are never offline. If you don't, your company may not be able to serve its customers. You head a procurement team and the pricing, quality and timing of your team's purchases impacts the work of your colleagues in production and sales, which ultimately impacts the external customers' products. Successful leaders understand this well, and will move mountains to ensure that external customers' needs and wishes are satisfied or exceeded so that their organization remains their valued partner and supplier. Put it into action. Get to know your customers well. Always make a conscious effort to spend time with your internal customers to fully understand their needs and expectations. Appreciate the importance and impact of your help and support, and understand the impact of when your team are slow or make mistakes. Be innovative and creative to unearth ways in which you can add extra value to what your internal customers need to create and produce. If your internal customers are in turn serving other internal customers, understand each part of this internal value chain or pipeline by also spending time in the departments or sections served by your internal customers.